Hey Lifecentral Youth and hey Excel, and if today is your first time checking out one of our YouTube videos, you're really welcome. If you enjoy this content, then make sure you hit subscribe and stick around with us. But today we're launching a brand new series called I Have Questions, and this whole series is basically aimed at equipping you to answer the questions that you have got about God. So if you're a Christian, then maybe your mates are coming to you and saying, I have questions, I don't know what to believe about science and bang and all this kind of stuff. We want to equip you to answer those questions. If you're not a Christian and you have got loads of questions, we want to maybe begin to answer some of those questions and begin to think about the questions that you might have about God and faith and church and all of that stuff. And so we're going to be looking at loads of different topics throughout this series, and kicking off the series today is Hannah Woodhouse. She's going to be talking about science and creation, so check it out. Hope you enjoy it.
Hey there guys, it is so good to see you. My name is Hannah, like Andy said, and we are going to spend some time jumping in to the very first session today in our series called I Have Questions. And the big question that we kind of want to explore a little bit together today is, how was the world made? We want to spend some time thinking about science and creation and how God and faith comes into that as well. So we're going to chat a little bit about science. I don't know what your guys' opinion is of science, but I actually really used to like science lessons as a kid. I really used to enjoy them. In my opinion, science is cool. I know that's not making you guys think that I am any cooler, but I'm okay with that. I am fine. So science actually runs in my family as well, which is pretty cool. So you might have noticed this little book in front of me. This is a book called Inorganic Chemistry, and this is a book that my granddad won in a science competition at school, and the date from this book of when he won it is 1942, which was quite a long time ago. So yeah, my granddad was a scientist. He worked in factories and worked on various stuff, so I think that's pretty cool. But as you can see, I haven't followed in his scientist footsteps, but that is okay. So you guys, as a Christian in school, you may find it really fun to be in science lessons, but actually sometimes it might be really hard to be a Christian in school. Some science lessons, or RE or RS, whatever you call it, religious education or religious study lessons, might feel really uncomfortable for you, especially the ones that are about evolution or creation. We can feel like there's all of this pressure to act a certain way, to be the perfect Christian, or to know the answers to all of the questions. And that's why we want to explore this today. We want to say that we all have questions, and there's things that we all don't know. I remember being in an English class once, and some of the people in my class knew that I was a Christian, but it wasn't really very widely known. And I remember, in answer to a question, I remember just kind of blurting out. And the reason why I think that is because I'm a Christian. And then it was out there, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is out there now. And you guys, whether your classmates know that you're a Christian or not, it can feel really difficult, and it can feel like there's all of this pressure. But if you wouldn't call yourself a Christian, that's okay. But if you would, then maybe there are people in your school who know that you're a Christian or don't know you're a Christian. But it doesn't change the fact that there can feel like all of this pressure to know all the answers. And I want to tell you guys today why we don't need to feel all of that pressure. See, science and faith, they're not against each other. They're not opposing sides on an argument. Science didn't come along to discredit faith and to say that faith is old-fashioned and not a forward way of thinking. Actually, I believe that they can work together. So I want to spend some time, just for a minute, I want you guys to have a think about what kind of theories there are about how the earth, the world and the universe was created? I want you guys to have a think. Obviously, there's the obvious answer that we all think of, but maybe you know some more theories, or maybe you can spend some time and pause the video now and look a few up and discuss it in your household or with your friends. So I'd love it. You can take the opportunity to pause this video now, and I want you guys to discuss what are some theories about how the world, the earth, the universe was made. So give this video a pause and we'll see you in a second. So how many did you guys come up with? We're going to chat about the most well-known and obvious one today, which is, of course, I'm talking about the Big Bang Theory, and not just the TV show, which you may or may not have seen. We want to chat it through together and see what it's about. So science now tells us that there apparently was this moment where everything was created. But science also tells us that you can't make something out of nothing. So where did all this stuff around us come from? And this has led scientists, people who've dedicated their whole life to studying this, to studying science and creation, to believe that there is a designer or a creator. You'll be surprised how many scientists actually believe in this. And their discoveries are catching up with what God already knows. As a Christian, I actually have very little trouble in believing that the Big Bang Theory is true. Obviously, we don't know for definite, it's still a theory and none of us were there. But I believe when God created everything from nothing, that is going to create a pretty big bang. And actually, it's not difficult to believe that God would use these theories and scientific ways of thinking to create everything from nothing. The very first book in the Bible is called the book of Genesis. You may have heard of it before. You may have never read the Bible before, but the Bible is made up of loads of different books. And the very first one, called Genesis, talks about how the earth and everything that we know was created. But actually, this book is quite poetic in the way that it's written, and actually is not designed to tell us actually that much about how and what happened. It tells us a little bit of that, but actually it tells us more why, and it tells us more who. It tells us more about who the creator of all of this was and is. It tells us about the universe that he created. Think about an iPhone, which has a creator, Steve Jobs. And imagine you are walking down the street, and along this street there's a glass factory, a plastic factory, there's somewhere that makes microchips for phones, there's all of these different places, and there's actually 34 different main components that make up an iPhone. Imagine you're walking along this street and none of these things are made for you. You have all the things to make it, but what are the chances that you could actually make a perfectly formed iPhone like this? And I'm not talking about using YouTube tutorials. There's none of that, no cheating using YouTube. What are the chances that from scratch, from raw materials, you could make an iPhone? It will be pretty difficult, seeing as you're not the creator and you're not the designer of an iPhone. And see, in the same way that we think of Steve Jobs as the creator and designer of the iPhone, we think about God, who has made something so much more intricate. He has made the earth and the universe. And actually, did you know that if the earth was 1 mile closer or further away from the sun, we couldn't live on this planet? If the earth was tilted on its axis, do you like my actions here? If the earth was tilted on its axis 0.01 degrees differently, we wouldn't be able to live on this earth. And there's so many factors like that. There's how fast the earth is spinning. There's how fast the earth is spinning around the sun. There's how quickly the sun spins. All of these things that if one of them was even a fraction out, we wouldn't be able to live on this planet. And we believe that it was designed exactly that way on purpose, that it wasn't an accident, that God created this for a reason. And there is such a tiny, tiny chance of all of these things happening. It's almost as though someone created it and someone meant it to be that way. It actually takes so much more faith to believe that this happened by accident than to believe that somebody created these things to work together. And in the same way that God intricately created the world, we believe that in that same way he created you and I. It says in Genesis 1:26, it says, "Then God said, let us make mankind in our own image, in our likeness." You and I were not created by accident. We were created on purpose. You're here because God designed you to be you. And God designed his creation and loves his creation. And we are going to spend some time talking about how much he loves his creation, that he would die for it next week. And that's what we're going to spend some time talking about. So I hope this has opened your eyes a little bit to how much God intricately created the earth and created you and I for a purpose and for a reason. And I hope that maybe when you talk to your friends, you can talk to them a little bit about the science and not be too scared of that. But also remember that most importantly, tell them about your story and tell them about you. That's the most impactful way to talk to people about Jesus. Talk to them about how you know him. And if you're not a Christian today, hopefully this has helped to open your eyes a little bit to how the earth was made and how we believe that this wasn't created by chance. So we're going to spend some time now discussing some questions that will have been sent out as usual. So please discuss those in your household with the people around you. Call up your friends and have a chat through those questions. And hopefully, actually, we've helped you address a little bit of a big question that you have. So thanks for tuning in to I Have Questions Week 1, and we'll see you next week.